All right, I'm here with my friend Jenny. I'll have to make them for accent. We're near London. I'm doing business with Vidify, but Jenny's very naturally intuitive, and so we've been playing around with muscle testing, and we're about to start talking about the map of consciousness. I thought maybe we'll record it and we'll share it to the group so everyone can participate, right? So, a lot of people in this group are a little bit interested in muscle testing. And like just yesterday, we gave you some techniques, and today you're like, oh, I have a superpower. What's your experience? So, how would you describe muscle testing? Or you found a way you like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was given three or four options to choose from.
Yeah, like a sway test,
Play test, which I would,
breathing,
yeah.
breathing,
Then the
and we call it the ring. I think it's called the ring. Yeah,
broken
ring.
link, yeah. Um, and there was one more. What was the other one? Oh, that was the breathing one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's just say we done three. I felt a bit of a fraud doing the breathing because I wasn't sure if I was yes all the time because that's what I wanted to happen. So personally, for me, I found this one the best.
So one is when it's a yes, so we make a statement. When it's a
Yeah.
yes, it's strong. When it's a no, you with the same effort,
Yes.
always keep the same effort, but you're stronger or weaker. Okay. So what we're going to talk a bit about is the map of consciousness. Because in muscle testing, if you're muscle testing like emotional, energetic, spiritual things, then you sometimes you just need more information because the more accurate you are, the better you can shift things, right? So sometimes you just don't have enough information. When you get enough information, then you're like, boom, now we can shift it. Okay. So um, we'll talk a bit about the map of consciousness and I'll screen share here. Right. All right. We'll just there we go. So right here we have the map of consciousness, and this document you can read a book called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And in it, he talks a lot about muscle testing, but he also talks about the two different ways people go through life. And one of the things he did is they developed this document to quantify different levels of consciousness, right? So, you know, um, then you're very intuitive and you can really get a read on people naturally.
Yeah.
But you would before being a muscle test, you would never quantify it. Does that make sense? So you might walk in a room, you're like, "Oh, that dude's super sketchy," like,
I talked to him.
yeah, or you might be like,
Yeah, I'm joking.
we're not spending time alone with that guy." But the next person you meet, you're like, "Oh, love her. We're like new best friends." And so, like, right? So people in general have ability to sense different levels of consciousness, but we're talking about actually quantifying it, right? So the map of consciousness does quantify things. You notice on the bottom, it's level 20, is shame is the lowest energetic thing. And in this group, we'll talk a lot about guilt and shame and getting better at recognizing it and rejecting it in every area of our life. And the top is enlightenment 700 to 1,000. Okay. And you notice at the top also, the process is pure consciousness, or, people might call it non-duality, right? Being at one, you know. In the New Testament, Jesus said, "In that day you'll know that I'm in the Father and I'm in you and you are in me." Right. So that was that revelation of oneness that not very many people connect to. Right? They're often more aware of their separation than their being in him. Right. Um, so the map of consciousness from the book Power versus Force details two different ways you can go through life: in force, which is in the bottom, or in power, which is the top. When you operate in force, your value and your identity come from how am I performing? That gets to tell me what I'm worth. How do people treat me or what do they think of me? That gets to tell me what I'm worth. How do institutions honor me? Like, did I get the job? Did I make it into the club? Sometimes it's very obvious institutions like I didn't get the job, or but sometimes it's kind of vague institutions like, oh, kind of an imaginary institution of success. Does that make sense? Like, oh, that institution keeps the seat rejecting me. Does that make like that someone else gets to tell me that I'm not measuring up, right? Um, so you can get things done, but there's a lot of consequences, right? Like a good example is some people might become extremely successful financially, but if they do it in force, then there's consequences. Like, congratulations, you're worth $200 million, but you're on your third marriage, and half your kids are in rehab, and you're an alcoholic, right? It's like, oh, well, that didn't turn out super good, did it? So an interesting thing in the one thing the Bible says, which is interesting, is that it says the blessing of the Lord makes you rich, and He adds no sorrow to it. So if we can become successful, more connected to God's kingdom, then there's an abundance that can come without a lot of the baggage with it. You follow me so far? So if you can operate on the top of the map of consciousness, then the key thing is that you are now connected to divine unconditional love defining you, right? And this unconditional love um, isn't up and down based on your performance, right? It's solid, so it'll be the same this morning as it is tonight, right? And if that's true, then nothing that happens or doesn't happen today can change my value. And if that's the case, one of the key things is then you can be more wholehearted in life. What does that mean?
Would you be in flow as well?
Absolutely. Being at the top of the map consciousness is fundamentally in flow because the first step to flow is selflessness,
Mm.
then timelessness, effortlessness, richness, right? So being wholehearted, sociologists will say, well, if someone is old and has had an amazing life, one thing we know is they've been wholehearted. In other words, they've been willing to take risks and go for it. Um, because if you can connect to unconditional love and be wholehearted, you'll still fail. It's not that you won't fail, and it's not that failure doesn't hurt, but failure can't tell you what you're worth anymore. So you come back and do it again. Does that make sense? Right. So it's like, oh, I had a beautiful business and I lost it, and I can't bring myself to try again because it was so painful to lose it. Why? Because the losing it put shame on you. I was overweight and I got fit, but then I gained it all back. And I have this internal resistance at trying to get in shape again because the gaining the weight back put so much shame on me. It was so embarrassing. And I'd rather stay here than risk being fit and losing it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I think is helpful
Key.
is if we go on just the process over here. Okay. So it'll give you a little better description of kind of the how it changes. Does that make sense? Right. So if we go to the very bottom and we go to the emotion and process, so humiliation, elimination. So humiliation is the lowest emotion, right? By the way, if you see people in rage is because something humiliated them. So essentially they are drowning. Their identity is drowning, and they will do anything, even if it's not a good idea, to save it, right? I'm gonna kill someone. I'm gonna beat somebody up. I'm gonna like do people doing crazy stuff. Why? Because their core value is not secure, and something is happening in their environment that threatened them and humiliated. Right? So humiliation and elimination. This would be like there's a 3-lane road, and I'm seeing which lane the bus is coming in, and I'm making sure I'm in that lane. So I'm moving over to that lane. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right. And that's kind of the same for both um, shame and guilt. Like, oh, you know, I deserve it, and I deserve being in this lane. Right. So you see people like just weirdly trash their lives because they're like, I deserve it. Right. This happened. It was my fault. And so I deserve my life to be crap. Right. Despair and abdication is a little different. Abdication, just giving up your personal power. right? So that would be like I find myself in the lane where the bus is coming, and there's absolutely nothing I can do. And I'm like,
You're
I'm
dead.
gonna get run over. Not really anything you can do about it. Does that make sense? Right? It's the level of apathy. Well, life sucks. What can you do? Like, get up, get up now. I can't. There's not, you don't even really care. Does that make sense? Right. So then grief, next level is regret and despondency. I'm like, oh, I'm really bummed that we're about to get hit by the bus. What can you do? Right? Grief, this is gonna suck. Fear is anxiety and withdrawal, like, oh my God, we're about to get hit by the. At least I'm like going like this. Does that make sense? This is a lot of progress, right?
Yeah. So this is you going up the ladder then. So this is how
Yeah, it's like changing all that, right? So the next level, desire, craving, and enslavement. Man, like, oh, I really want to be in that other lane,
Yeah.
but somehow I'm stuck in this lane, right? And then now we get to anger, hate, and aggression. So sometimes when you work with people clearing things out emotionally, they might go, I'm feeling better, but I'm finding myself getting really angry lately. I'm like, that's not where we want to stay, but it's better than the apathy before. Does that make sense? It's like, because you're saying, okay, this is not okay. That makes sense. I do not want to get hit by this. We're going to try and do something about it. Right. So we go up to pride, which is scorn and inflation. Scorn is like this is not okay. Does that make sense? Right. It's like, it's interesting to ask people, hey, you're at a nice restaurant, you order a beautiful steak, medium rare, and it comes out more medium well. What do you do? It's very interesting the different responses. Some people are like, oh, I'll just eat it. No. Right? Because that's lower on the so you don't have to be nasty about it, but to scorn is to say, oh, excuse me, waiter, yeah, cooked right. And this isn't what I deserve. Can you please fix it? Right?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Here's the thing. Think about this. I've spent a lot of time working in restaurants. Like, if you get the steak that's not cooked right, I can tell the steak's not cooked right. Yeah. And I can tell you don't look super happy. But I'm like, is everything okay? You're like, it's fine, it's fine, don't worry about it. I'm like, I know my job is to fix this for you.
Yes.
You won't let me.
Very nice waiter.
The manager is like, what's up with table five? I'm like, our steak's overcooked. Well, can we fix it now? She doesn't want anything done. And the chef is like, what's going on out there? Well, we gotta fix it for her. Like, she won't let me. See the problem? Yeah. Is there provision and abundance available for you, but you can't receive it because you don't think you deserve it, and you won't even say anything. See the difference? It's like, interesting. So it's scorn and it's like, no, this is not okay. We're moving. Does that make sense? Right. Courage is like, I know I have what it takes, and we're going to do something about it. Let's step out of the lane. Does that make sense? So now that we shift over to the top of the map of consciousness, we step into the realm of hope. Like good things are coming. We're not so much worried about focusing on the bus anymore. We're like, oh, what do we want to do? Right. And if you look, the first thing is like, okay, trust and release. Right. So there's interesting affirmations you can do to help shift yourself. Right. Even if you don't know how to muscle test, you can do interesting affirmations. Okay. So um, you could say something like, you know, I trust God. I trust myself to do the right thing. I trust the future. And what do? I let go of the old way of doing and being.
Yeah.
Right? Optimism and intention. I have an earnest expectation of good things to come. Intention. I know what I want. I know I'm a powerful person. I know how I'm going to get there. See what I mean? Forgiveness and transcendence. So, um, this is a very important thing. Imagine if you're in a hot air balloon, right? But there's sandbags attached to it, so you're not going anywhere. But it's a cloudy So the weather's not very nice. If we can cut the sandbags and let go of things we need to let go of, what do we do? Then we transcend,
Yes.
right? So
Let go of the baggage.
exactly. So if you were to say, you know what, I forgive myself, forgive other people, I forgive life, and I and as I do, I rise above and operate at a different level,
Yes.
right? So, you know, it's life is much easier the higher you operate on the map of consciousness,
Hmm.
right? And at this, so when we rise above, and now you're above the clouds, right? You have a different level of understanding, right? You're like, oh, I can see things better,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, so you say at this new altitude, I have beautiful clarity
Yes.
on God's process,
Yeah.
right? Now, the interesting thing is this. God's process is not five sequential steps for the next 10 years of your life, right? It's abstraction. And the abstraction looks out of place. What is like, you know, so for example, the level of reason, like, okay, you have some things to fix in your life, right? Okay, we got to figure it out. Cool. You're like, okay, the God view is wise, check. The life view is meaningful, check. The motion is understanding, check. The process, abstraction. And we're like, what is that one doing there? We don't like that one, right? Because what people really want is they want their nervous system wants clarity and the five sequential steps for the next 10 years because then we can relax. Why? Because we're looking at life like you're an orphan and we have to control everything. But faith is being confident with the future without knowing the steps. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Faith is of the heart. Your heart's your CEO, the man with the vision for the company. Don't let the admin, the pencil pushers run everything. They're like, but how? But how? But how? And the CEO's like, shut up. This is where we're going. We'll figure it out. Right. So abstraction is the way I would say describe abstraction is God's it's the process where God takes seemingly disconnected and broken things and brings them together by divine order and timing to create something extraordinary.
Hmm.
So you can't manipulate the abstract process. You have to receive it, right? So it's the abstract process. At a certain point in your life, all of a sudden everything comes together. And this failed thing over here, you learn from it. But you met this person 5 years ago, and then this happened over here, and it all comes together, right? To make something like ping, and you're like, oh, like amazing. How did it happen? You're like, it was a gift because I never could have, I can't orchestrate this, right? But I have to receive it and expect it, right? So one of the interesting things about abstraction then is, and a very careful thing to pay very close attention to is your relationship with uncertainty and unpredictability. Like, right? How's that going to work out? I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm stressed. Versus, how's it going to work out? I have no idea. It's going to be amazing. I'm like, well, divine intervention. God has people that show up. You're like, ooh, I'm just gonna be drinking my coffee. What's this? What's this? I know how it's gonna work. It's gonna be amazing. It's like more like you know the movie's gonna end well, but you're like, I don't know how the hero is gonna get out of this one, but watch, right? You're like, "Hmm, look at that. That's being worked out for me. Oh, they showed up. Oh, I knew something would happen. See? Right? See the feeling, right? So for me, and so this is a battle you will have if you want to operate in power and in flow. You will have a battle right here all the time, a knock down, drag out fight. Why? Because we fight, the Bible says we fight the good fight of faith,
Mhm.
right? Where we have to allow our emotions to be in alignment and agreement with the vision and then result we want instead of letting our emotions be dictated by our current circumstances.
I suppose it's a bit like that when they say about worrying about something before it's happened. It could all work out well. So you're putting that energy
Yeah,
of, oh my God, the anxiety, oh my God, what if it goes wrong? Or, what if this, what if that? And then it just swims by you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
exactly. So one of the key things to understand is like, unless you train yourself otherwise,
Yeah, you're always going to be in that
your
fear.
reaction always to uncertainty, because your base nervous system wants to keep you alive. And
Yes.
it's like, Jenny, do not leave the cave. There's sleeping monsters out there that will eat you. But what? But if they're hiding,
Yeah.
like unless you can see everything, you're in danger.
Yes.
See?
Yeah.
But you can't operate at that reactive, weak level.
For everything.
You have to go, no, no, we're powerful. God loves us. There's divine intervention and we'll work out, right? So for me, I'll often have to say, um, I'm very comfortable with uncertainty and unpredictability as God works out all the details for me. So I'll catch myself with but how is this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to pay that bill? What is this? How are we going to grow the business? See what I mean? So
Yeah.
you got to catch and go, no, no, I'm comfortable with how it's going to work out.
Yeah.
So um,
Is it a bit like the saying, what will be, will be?
I'm going to pause this really quickly because my battery's running low. I'm going to go grab my charger.
Got a look like a scarecrow. You're not your computer. I look like I've been up all night. But I thought I sorted it out. What does it mean something to keep losing a particular piece of jewelry all the time? I lose earrings all the time. One earring all the time.
So could you
You turn the switch on. The switch down. It's no it's on the plug, yeah. That's it. Hmm.
ready?
Yep.
All right, we're back. So one of the very interesting things to understand about the map of consciousness is it gives a little bit of insight into faith and hope. Okay. So um if we're having coffee, and I said, I went to the doctor yesterday, and the doctor told me I have terminal cancer. But I know that God will heal me someday. I know it. Okay. Is that a statement of faith?
Yeah, I would say so.
It's not.
Oh,
It is a statement of hope.
okay.
Hope is an earnest expectation of good things to come.
But what if you uh, put it into terms of I am healthy now.
Correct.
I am,
That's a statement of faith.
I am.
Present tense.
Yeah, yeah.
I heard about this bar in London, and above the bar, there's a permanent sign that says free beer tomorrow.
Always busy.
People are going to get some free beer?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
Why do you think you're going to get free beer?
because it says it.
What does it say?
Free beer tomorrow.
So what are you going to do?
Come there tomorrow.
What does the sign say tomorrow?
Oh, I like that one.
But see, it's like, oh, I know God's going to heal me someday. Tomorrow's like someday, and tomorrow it's someday, and tomorrow. So,
I am.
so faith is the hand that reaches out and never comes back empty, right? So, one of the interesting things on the map of consciousness, I would say that the level 500, which is the level of love, is also the level of faith.
Mhm.
So if you're changing things on the map of consciousness, 500 is kind of a sweet spot. Does that make sense? Like you get there, you're doing some stuff. Okay. So the if we talk about reverence and revelation, it's like it's like receiving something as an accomplished fact. That's what it is, right? You're like you see the process and you receive it as an accomplished fact, and you let that piece of having received it, then you have the transfiguration at 540. Right? Does that make sense? So the other thing about the map of consciousness, um, illumination is the peaceful process, and pure consciousness is to be in him, right? Is to operate from a place of non-duality, or John 14:20 says, Jesus said, "In that day you'll know that I'm in the Father and I'm in you and you are in me."
It's funny because when I look onto the purple one, I
Uh-huh.
do feel like, "Ooh, I'm there."
Yeah, yeah,
Weird. It feels like you can feel the enlightenment, you can feel the I've gone to the next dimension.
yeah,
I'm untouchable.
yeah, yeah. So I will on this document, one thing you'll notice too is it also has well, this document right here is the Advanced Inner Healing Muscle Testing Toolkit, and you can find that at muscletestingkit.com, and has all these documents on it. So, anyways, any questions on that? Did um this make sense?
Yeah. Oh, for me, I think it's almost the people.
They
Makes
can't
sense.
talk to me.
Oh, fantastically, but,
They're like,
yeah.
We're waiting here. Anybody?
Um, no, I mean, I get it now. I mean, with me, it does need a little bit of an explanation.
So you play around with it.
Yeah.
Your what you'll find is your experience with it is will be different. Now,
I think the question is always going to be a yes or a no, and then you're going to get the answer from that, which will then lead you up to the next question, how
yeah.
that piece is affecting you. Is it affecting you this way or that way? And it is, it's elimination, isn't it? So
So the interesting thing in power versus force um, is that you can use it to have an interesting measurement of different things. You
yes.
can measure what's the level of consciousness of Pachelbel's canon in D versus like Black Sabbath's song, whatever. Does that make sense? Like, oh, a very different vibe. Does that make sense? It can be interesting to muscle test what is the level of consciousness of the United Nations Charter and their intention of what they want to do, right? Versus the practical reality application of it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, what we want to do is great, but we get stuck in power and control and manipulation, and we have UN peacekeepers raping people in Africa and just crazy stuff. See what I mean? It's like, two very different things, right? Um,
Do you find yourself, yeah, it's a question, do you find yourself just asking for the positive things, or do you have to,
yeah, that's actually a good thing. Good question. I think a mistake people can make with muscle testing is to use it to make their decisions.
yes, like throwing the dice, isn't it? I used to get into the dice quite a lot when I was younger.
So here's the problem. Um, you may muscle test accurately that something is going to be difficult or hard, but maybe that's a negative muscle test. Yet, so as a Christian, I believe more, in uh, you know, feeling led by God on what to do or not do versus muscle testing, which is a different thing, right? And that's just kind of an internal yellow light, red light, green light, or mostly green light, red light. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
So I'm very conscious on making this life decisions based on muscle testing. I think that's a bad idea. You can muscle test energetically the other things, but maybe that's like you should go over there. It's gonna suck, but
Yeah.
does that make sense? And for muscle testing to be like, no, no, that's a bad idea. But then I do it and it's difficult and it's hard, but when I get through it, I've elevated myself. You see what I mean?
Well, I guess it's having, it is a decision. Like I said, when I was younger, I used to throw the dice. If I couldn't make a decision, I'd dice out there and I just throw them. Double six means I'm going to do it. And I'd get the double six and I'd still be going, oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm still not sure about it. Let me throw it again, and when you keep getting that confirmation, it's like, oh, okay, we're on number 100, throw the dice out, still double six. We've got to do it. So,
So here's an interesting thing to think about. If you believe that God loves you and has a plan for your life, right?
yeah,
If you believe that if you're created in God's image to have that relationship, then despite uncertainty swirling in your head, if the words we speak have creative power,
yeah,
does that make sense?
yeah,
Then in the midst of my brain having a meltdown, I'm like, "Ah, to-do." Maybe we should say or speak into the situation confidently
yes.
and make the right decision. I know how to hear, right? So in some of the most stressful times in my life, I had big decisions to make. Man, I would do that. My brain was going, ah,
Yeah.
but I would, do the right thing. God, so you have to kind of push your faith out in front of you, right? And so I'm very deliberately allowing the vision of that I've made the right decision and then I heard the right thing to impact what I'm thinking, feeling, saying, and doing.
It's like walking down an alleyway, yeah, late at night. And I will be okay. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm going to be fine. I'm
Yeah,
in it at the end. And you sort of talk yourself into that. I, I did it.
yeah,
Come out of the alley when I get run over by that ball.
yeah.
That's what I'm
That's
doing.
why, as a tourist in London, I'm like, look right, then left, then right.
Yeah.
Look right, yeah, because you don't want to step off the cliff. That'd be bad. So, anyways, hope this is helpful for people. If you have any questions in our group, post it down below. We'll have a discussion on it. But greetings from England,
No.
Denmark, and business.
Thank you, guys. Bye.